Genius Tools Forms allows for manipulation of properties and dimensions of Creo objects, creating variations of models or start parts. Simple on-the-fly interfaces make creation of these variants extremely easy. Once created, store them in your Genius Tools library for easy retrieval. We will look at two different scenarios for creating forms within Creo. In this one, we're going to take a very simple Creo part and apply a form or manipulate dimensions from scratch. We will then take that part and put it into the library and then drag it and drop and manipulate dimensions. In the second scenario, I'm going to look at a sheet metal part that configures thickness, bend radius, and bend allowance. Let's create the form for the first one. Very simple Creo part. Go up to Genius Tool Forms, and all I'm going to do is say I want to add in specific elements to configure. I want to configure dimension. What dimensions would we like to configure? I'd like to be able to configure the overall height. I would like to be able to configure that dimension. I would like to be able to configure the width of the leg. Once I have these dimensions selected, save and close, I now can come in and easily manipulate those dimensions. 3 to 6, 3 to 6, 13 to 22. Regenerate button, and you see a manipulation. Pretty straightforward. At that point in time, no matter what I do to this part, I can come in and model the part however I want, add whatever is needed. And still come back if I want to and manipulate those values. We'll put them back where they were. Generate. There we are. Easy to create and add objects to your Genius Tools form. In the second scenario, I have a sheet metal part that I've already created a form with. Let's go ahead and drag and drop. And what you'll see, I picked the same Genius Tools form. I have gone in and configured, and every single time I pick a different scenario for thickness, bend radius, and bend allowance, I have a manipulation of those values. In this scenario, a customer wanted to be able to choose gauges instead of thicknesses. And every time they picked a gauge, they wanted to be able to manipulate these values. If I go back in and say I want 10 gauge roll scenario, different values. 10 gauge broke scenario, different values. As soon as I update, those values are then applied to the sheet metal part. Easy to use, easy to set up. And like I said before, we can go in and add these parts to the library. In this scenario, this part already existed in the library that I had. For adding my other part to the library, let's go back to that part. We'll get into the library editor. What library do we want to put it in? A simple right click, add the current model. There we are. And even now, when I close this part down, we'll close both of them down. I'll get into my library. I drag and drop, and now I have the ability to manipulate that part with the way we configured it with forms. A bunch of different things you can do with Genius Tools Forms. Hopefully you get the idea with these simple examples. If you'd like to learn more about Genius Tools Forms or any of the other Genius Tools apps, please feel free to reach out at any time.